Welcome back to Venture Vibes. Starting July 1, 2025, Malaysia officially implemented a wide-ranging expansion of the sales and service tax, also known as SST. This policy change is part of the government's fiscal reform strategy aimed at increasing national revenue without introducing a new goods and services tax, GST. But it has triggered widespread public response due to rising costs of goods and services. The new SST system includes expanded tax categories, revised tax rates, and broader coverage that directly affects both consumers and businesses. Let's begin with the major changes. Under the updated SST regime, the sales tax remains between 5% and 10%, but it now applies to a wider range of imported goods. That includes premium fruits, cosmetics, personal electronics, and luxury household items. Local staples like rice, vegetables, and eggs remain untaxed, but many imported alternatives do not enjoy this exemption. For example, while locally grown bananas or papayas are tax-free, imported apples, avocados, and grapes are now subjected to a 5% sales tax. The aim is to encourage domestic consumption, support local agriculture, and reduce reliance on imported food products. However, this shift has caused visible price hikes in urban supermarkets and wet markets alike. In addition to goods, the service tax has also been expanded significantly, from targeting only high-end service sectors to now including mainstream industries that affect everyday life. Private healthcare services catering to non-Malaysians are now taxed at 8%. While Malaysians seeking treatment locally are mostly exempt, this has implications for Malaysia's thriving medical tourism industry. Similarly, certain private education services, especially those offering international programs to foreign students, now fall under the service tax bracket. One of the biggest shifts is the taxation of rental and leasing services, which previously had little to no SST burden. Starting July 2025, leasing of equipment, industrial machinery, and commercial property is taxed at 8%, provided the business turnover exceeds RM500,000. However, residential property rentals are still exempt from this tax. The construction sector is also affected. All large-scale infrastructure and commercial development projects valued over RM1.5 million are now subject to a 6% service tax. Affordable housing, however, continues to be tax-exempt to prevent burdening the B40 and M40 groups. Another key change involves beauty and wellness services. Businesses in this sector, such as spas, facial salons, and non-medical aesthetic services, are now taxed at 8%, again, only if their annual turnover exceeds RM500,000 ringgit. This inclusion aims to tax luxury lifestyle segments without hurting small-scale vendors or micro-entrepreneurs. Now, many business owners have expressed concern. Not just because of the tax amount itself, but because of the logistical challenge of registering under SST, updating accounting systems, and ensuring compliance. Thankfully, the Royal Malaysian Customs Department has introduced a 6-month grace period. That means no penalties will be imposed on newly affected businesses until December 31, 2025, provided they register and update their tax records within this window. Economists estimate that the government will generate between RM3 billion and RM5 billion annually from this new SST structure. These funds are crucial. Malaysia is navigating a post-COVID economic environment, reduced oil revenue, and rising subsidy demands, all while maintaining public services and infrastructure development. However, this tax restructuring comes with trade-offs. Consumer advocates have raised alarms over sudden price increases. Market footage and recent street interviews show ordinary Malaysians voicing their frustrations. For example, a family who used to spend RM100 on groceries now sees their bill stretch to RM110 or RM115 for the same items, especially if they buy imported or premium goods. Public reaction has been mixed. While many agree with the goal of strengthening national finances, others worry about the short-term inflation and burden on middle-income households. In fact, some online polls show that over 60% of Malaysians feel unprepared for these changes, particularly small businesses and single-income families. The government has responded by stating that the SST adjustments are part of a broader reform strategy. According to the Ministry of Finance, the decision to expand SST instead of reintroducing the more controversial GST is meant to avoid regressive tax burdens on essential items. They argue that this targeted tax approach is fairer and easier to manage, both for enforcement and transparency. Malaysia's Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim reiterated in a June press conference that the updated SST will not be permanent in its current form. The government plans to review its impact over the next 6 to 12 months, allowing time to adjust tax categories based on inflation, consumer sentiment, and economic data. Meanwhile, business chambers, including the Federation of Malaysian Manufacturers and the Malaysian Retail Chain Association, are pushing for clearer guidelines, digital tax filing tools, and training programs. They emphasize the importance of supporting small and medium enterprises, SMEs, which make up over 97% of Malaysian businesses. On the ground, some businesses are adapting fast. Chain stores and large retail outlets are adjusting prices, issuing SST receipts, and publicly displaying SST-inclusive pricing. Smaller shops, however, are struggling with the learning curve. As for consumers, the advice from financial experts is to buy local whenever possible, monitor monthly budgets more closely, and avoid impulse purchases of luxury or non-essential imported goods. If you're wondering whether this tax expansion is just the beginning, yes, it probably is. Many economists suggest that Malaysia may eventually have to revisit GST or implement a broader consumption-based tax model if national revenue shortfalls persist. But for now, the SST system is designed to be targeted, controlled, and less burdensome on the average Malaysian. In summary, Malaysia's July 2025 SST expansion is a serious step toward fiscal reform. It aims to strengthen the country's revenue base while maintaining protections for essential goods and vulnerable communities. But it also challenges businesses, stretches household budgets, and adds complexity to everyday transactions. The effects of this shift will become clearer in the months ahead. Thank you for watching. Malaysia's new SST is here, prices are rising, and people are reacting fast. What happens next depends on how well the government listens and how quickly businesses and consumers adapt. We'll keep bringing you the facts. Subscribe for more. See you in the next one.